Welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, where we look at all the latest comics and other media featuring the Transformers. In this episode, we've got another Energon Universe comic review with Transformers number 13. Today is Friday, October 11th, 2024, and this is episode 411, Transmissions Alt Mode.
Welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, the podcast that's been using a fake name the entire time. Our real name is Radio Paid Gobatron. I'm your host, Charles, aka Big C, and I'm joined by the excellent Transmissions team. Jeremy, aka Yakko.
With special guest Snoopy, a new puppy. How's it going?
Scott, the illustrious Dr. Pants.
I don't know how I'm supposed to be on stage with that thing. I can't compete with that. He's way too adorable. Hello, everyone.
And Daryl, the Cybertronian Beast.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get that dog off the camera, Jeremy, because we're all just gonna talk puppy. So let's talk puppies.
Oh.
It's for the YouTube clicks.
Put it in the thumbnail.
We're really talking puppies?
Let's go. I see a fucking puppy.
I don't know. I'm more of a cat person.
All right, if you're waiting, let's go. Let's talk Transformers.
Yes. All right. As always, we start off the show by thanking our Donatreons, those lovely people who support us on Patreon and PayPal. Thank you all so much for continuing to contribute and help the show keep going. Of course, that includes being a Donatreon includes getting some perks like getting to see the show live every week. We record on Sundays, getting entered into all our contests automatically. We just had a Toy Hacks drawing for last month in the toy show this week. And of course, getting bonus content, which includes our bonus show, We Like Big Bots, done by Daryl and Dr. Pants, who are right down below me here. And their show is all exclusive on our Patreon page, so only Donatrons can get access to We Like Big Bots. 14 episodes right now, and more on the way at some point.
On an indefinite hiatus.
No, we did not approve that.
Was canceled at the administration level.
No, that is not true. That is fake news.
I have not gotten any of these emails, Daryl. Are you just not sharing them with me, or?
I'm just trying to guess what his next words are going to be, because it's. I mean, it's all coming from the top here, and Charles is the top. You can see it in the line.
Next words were coming soon.
That's not what I heard. I heard coming sometime between now and the heat death of the universe.
As soon as the AI stuff can make convincing video representations of you two.
It's true.
That's going to be a little while, I guess.
Just feed it pictures of Chris Hemsworth and much more attractive looking men.
Just become VTubers with the show.
Oh man, we could be anime girls.
I don't get that at all. That's something that is, yeah.
That's how you get the clicks. These voices talking about robots, and we're anime girls. Yes.
Okay.
Sounds interesting.
Sounds horrifying.
Is it in the budget?
Well, your budget for the show is already zero.
Yeah.
Maybe some listener will be nice enough to make us VTuber models so that we can do this.
That just scares me.
Anyway, other bonus content includes season 3 of Empire of Rust, our Transformers live play RPG podcast. This week we had the regular version of episode 125, Up the Garbage Chute Space Boy. And that's available for everyone right now at transmissionspodcast.com/rust. Episode 126, the early version, will be available exclusively for Donatrons starting this Monday, and then the regular version will be out a week from Monday. So if you are a Donatron, you get those early, you get the uncut bonus versions a week early, and you get to listen to the episode a week early. So enjoy that. And of course, we still got our Transformers #1 comic from Skybound. We commissioned that for the new series of Transformers comics, and we got the cover from artwork by EJ Sue. You can pick that up at transmissionspodcast.com/comic. And lastly, of course, we've got our Toy Hacks promo code. You can use that promo code Octobots throughout the month of October to save 15% off all your purchases at toyhacks.com. Remember that code Octobots, and you can get 15% off. Cannot be combined with any other promo codes at toyhacks.com, but you can use it with your RoboPoints. All right, let's jump in. We've got a tiny bit of comics news before our review. Okay, first up, we've got some exclusive covers from Top Shelf Comics, and that's going to be at New York Comic Con later this month. So these are covers by Marcelo Mater, Transformers Hall of Famer Marcelo Mater, and Livio Ramondelli. So you can pick up those two covers at New York Comic Con this month if you're going to go there. They're going to be and both Marcelo and Livio will be at will have booths at New York Comic Con, so you can pick it up directly from them, I guess, or maybe from topshelfcomic.com. Maybe you can't get it directly from them, I'm not sure, but ask them and they'll probably tell you when you're there.
Booth 1578.
Yes, yes, exactly. All right. And yeah, so I should mention that the Marcelo comic is from the Transformers #1 40th anniversary issue, and it's a re-rendering of that with with a different artwork and different characters. It's got Optimus Prime, but also you've got Gears, or I think the original Toei was Gears on the cover, wasn't it?
Just you have Megatron in the background instead of DeForest Kelly.
Yes. Right. And then the Livio cover is a variant cover of Transformers #13, which is out this week, and which is what we're reviewing. So you can check those out. Next up, we've got upcoming covers from Void Rivals #15, and looks like the artists are Leonardo Romero and Andrea Milana for two of the covers, and then we also have an incentive cover from EJ Sue. So we just mentioned EJ Sue did the work for our cover, and yeah, we've got that looks like a cool image. It's got Springer and Hot Rod squaring up to face their enemies, fighting side by side. Hopefully this means that in issue 15 Hot Rod and Springer will finally catch up to each other. So look forward to that. That's issue 15 should be in a couple of months, since I believe Void Rivals #13 comes out this month in October, so 15 should be out in December. All right, well, that's all our comics news. Now it's time for our review. This week we are reviewing Transformers #13. So this is out this week. We are doing a full spoiler review of 13. So if you have not read the issue yet, please shut off the podcast, go read it first before you come back, because I think this is a very interesting issue, and I hopefully I'll have some fun things to say about it. It's the first kind of delving into the history of the Transformers universe in this new universe, in the Skybound Energon Universe. So there's some interesting things that happen here. So we're going to talk about it. Okay, that's your spoiler warning. So We're going forward. Here we go. So Transformers number 13 is written by Daniel Warren Johnson, artist Jason Howard, colorist Mike Spicer, letterer Russ Wooten, editor Ben Abernathy, publication design Andres Juarez, and production Ashby Florence. So let's get into the story. We go back to the moment Starscream lost his position as leader of the Decepticons on Earth. Soundwave rips out some of his core components and tosses his body into the heart of a volcano. As Starscream lays broken and defeated on a stone slab floating in magma, his mind drifts back to happier times long ago on Cybertron. Back then, he was Ulchtar, a young scientist bot hanging out with his friends Genvo and Jetfire. As Ulchtar is finishing his work, Genvo and Jetfire come to take him to a viewing of a celestial event that only happens once every 200 years. It's also a special occasion since this will be Jetfire's last night on Cybertron. They transform to their jet modes and fly to Moonbase 2 for the best view. As they sit to wait for the event, they talk about recent events on Cybertron. Genvo asks if they've heard anything about the fighting. Ulchtar hasn't and mentions his brothers are not joining his side. Genvo has already joined the Decepticons and shows off the emblem on his chest. He praises the charisma of their leader and asks his friends to join them. But Jetfire has already decided he's going to leave Cybertron to search for energy to help save Cybertron without having to fight. Suddenly, Genvo is distracted by some turbo insects. He manages to crush one, but Ulchtar stops him from killing any more. He tells Genvo that the insects don't bite and they are actually helpful creatures that clean the gears of Cybertron's moons. Ulchtar thinks they're beautiful little creatures. Finally, the event has arrived. The three friends look to the sky to witness a Guardian robot fly past them in space. As they watch in wonder, Ulchtar gets a flash of inspiration. He flies off towards the Moonbase's weapons storage for the Cybertronian Defense Force. They quickly fly past the sleeping guard on duty, Cup, and Ulchtar finds some flare bombs. His friends think it's a bad idea, but Ulchtar wants the Guardian robots flying overhead to see them on the ground. They set off the bombs, which causes an explosion visible from space. The Guardian robot flying by does notice it. He turns his head in their direction, and the young bots on the ground wave at him. Amused, the Guardian lifts his claw arm and waves back in reply. Ulchtar and his friends are ecstatic that the Guardian saw and acknowledged them. But they don't have time to celebrate. Cup has caught up to them and tells them to stop. But they fly off laughing while Cup is left fuming in annoyance. Later on, it's time for Jetfire to say goodbye. Genvo and Ulchtar wish him well as Jetfire leaves Cybertron in search of a new energy source for Cybertron. As he flies off, Ulchtar comments how much he'll miss him, but Genvo says he'll still be around, and Ulchtar is thankful for that. Sometime later, Ulchtar is awakened to the sound of explosions. He comes out of his domicile to see Genvo and some other bots caught in a firefight. He calls out to Genvo, but then a bomb explodes in the air behind him, knocking him down. Genvo, I'm not sure how you say that, sees his friend is hurt and goes to his side. He tells Ulchtar they have to run now. Ulchtar is worried about his research in his lab, but Genvo says there's no time. They're under attack and the enemy is right behind them. He pushes Ulchtar forward, but then Genvo takes a shot directly to the chest. He collapses in Ulchtar's arms, his spark chamber breached. Ulchtar is distraught and cradles his dying friend. With Genvo's last words, he tells Ulchtar, "You did it. You yelled at the gods. You screamed the stars into seeing us." And then he's gone. Ulchtar screams in grief and despair as he sees Genvo's murderers press their attack, the Autobots led by Optimus Prime. The trauma flashback shocks Starscream back into the present. Inside the volcano, his body is melting from the heat. His legs are already consumed by the magma. In pain and shock, he tries to crawl to safety away from the heat of the magma pool, but he's not alone. A team of human mercenaries have found Starscream's body, and they see his advanced technology as a game changer. They attach a crane from their giant excavation vehicle to what's left of Starscream's unconscious body. But his body is too heavy, and the chain collapses, dropping his body to the ground. The team leader curses in frustration, declaring that he'll use this new discovery to achieve his rightful place instead of being forced to scrounge for junk, leading a salvage team. Deep in Starscream's unconscious, he goes back to the time when he was still Ulchtar and the day that everything changed for him. He carries the body of his fallen friend Genvo from the war zone, but he trips and drops the body as he falls to the ground. Ulchtar mournfully asks out loud, "What's left for me now? What am I going to do?" Surprisingly, a voice behind him answers. Megatron offers him a chance to join them, avenge his friend and clan, and become a warrior in the new Decepticon order. Megatron transforms and shrinks into his gun mode, landing in Ulchtar's hands. Ulchtar grabs the gun as he looks back at Genvo at his feet. Megatron asks him what his name is. Ulchtar sees his path is clear now. Gripping Megatron tightly, he answers, "My name is Starscream." And that is it for this issue, and it is to be continued. This is a 2-part issue, so we'll have part 2 of this origin of Starscream next week, or next month, I should say, next month. And I enjoyed this issue. I think the artwork was really good. We got Jason Howard, who has been doing all those character covers of the variant Transformers comics throughout the last year. And I thought he did a really good job with his artwork throughout this issue. I think it's a lot cleaner look for the Transformers characters than we've seen from both Daniel Warren Johnson and Jorge Corona. And I think that fits this earlier story where it's set in a time where everyone is kind of fresh and new and right off the assembly line, maybe almost. It's interesting to see Starscream as a young bot full of enthusiasm and hopefulness and gentleness, even, which is surprising for Starscream. And it's really interesting to see him get a proper kind of villain origin story. So I thought that was interesting. And the name Ulchtar, it was taken from the original treatment for G1 Transformers. So I'm sure everyone remembers the story about G1 Transformers, how Denny O'Neil was originally given the goal to do the treatment, and he came up with a few names. Denny O'Neil is credited with coming up with Optimus Prime. He also came up with Ulchtar for Starscream, but Bob Budiansky crossed that out and picked Starscream. I think he made the right choice. Ulchtar is a mouthful. I'm glad he went with Starscream instead. So that was interesting. Although for this series, that sets up a bit of a plot hole where when Jetfire came to Earth in that first issue, he called Starscream by his name Starscream. So, little plot hole there, but whatever. It was interesting to see that the Guardian robots are they like flying around Cybertron or in orbit around Cybertron? I don't know what they're doing, just flying past the planet every 200 years or so. But that it was an interesting way to bring in an Omega Supreme figure. It looked really much like Omega Supreme. I don't know if it was generic Guardian robot or the actual Omega Supreme. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Also,
coming around once every 200 years is not the best way to guard anything.
Very true. I also liked the cover of this book has Starscream in the little box where normally it's Optimus Prime. So that's nice because it is it's completely Starscream focused story. So that was nice. And I am glad that Starscream's not completely dead. So they didn't completely take him out. So we will see more of Starscream going forward in the comic. And I didn't recognize any of those humans, if they're supposed to be G.I. Joe people or just random new characters. I didn't recognize any of them. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Their tank their like crane thing looked kind of like a Hiss tank, but
Yeah.
I don't
Proto
know.
his tank.
My one complaint about the art is the 2-page spread of Megatron. I thought the head design for Megatron didn't quite look right. But that's a nitpick. That overall, I think the art is really good in this book. I also like the redesign of Megatron in gun mode. With it looks like a little miniature tank with a handle on it. So maybe that's an indication that he's also a triple changer and can turn into a regular size tank at some point. And they in the letters column of all places, they just give an editor's note about how this issue is introducing mass conversion. So that's what they're calling, in the IDW days, this was called mass displacement, where you could shrink, some Transformers could shrink down. And here they're calling it mass conversion. And they make a point to say that the bot is not consciously able to manipulate this ability. They can only transform into a predetermined shape and size. So interesting take. All right, let's go around and see what everyone thought of this issue, starting with Daryl.
Okay, well, this was a good issue. I enjoyed the look back at the history of Cybertron and much more focused through the eyes of Starscream. I did like the little pull from the real world with the name Ulchtar. I thought that was clever. And I'm wondering if the name or the character of Genmo or Genvo or whatever the hell his name is gonna come back somewhere. If he was, he died, but did he really? I don't know what, if that's if that's going to be used somewhere in the future. But all in all, I like that backstory. I thought is very good. It's the trope of just using a character, his hatred for one team to get him on your team kind of thing. It's used quite a lot, but it works. I thought the art was great. I really enjoyed Jason Howard's art. I thought the scene with the Guardian robot, I assumed it was Omega Supreme, was just awesome. The scale threw me off a little bit. So they're standing on Moonbase 2, which you can see its curvature because they're standing on the surface of it. And then in the distance, you can see Cybertron. How freaking big is this Guardian robot? Like, it's almost as big as the damn planet. Like, is this like how I'm confused as to how big Omega Supreme is supposed to be here. Is it a point of perspective? Is he too close to the camera on this, kind of thing where, he's just really close to us? But either way, I loved this shot. I thought it was great. And I like the idea of it being like this kind of like celestial event, like, every 200 years, these Guardian robots fly over, and it's this something that you go outdoors to see. It's kind of neat that they would have something like this. I liked it how they have still kept, right from the very beginning of G1, they've still kept Starscream and Jetfire as friends. That's always been part of G1. That's always been kind of fun and meaningful to me, that Starscream and Jetfire were buddies and that they were scientists at the start. Starscream being much more of a star charts kind of guy, and Jetfire being more of the explorer here. But I really enjoyed this issue quite a bit. The part that did throw me, not wanting to shock you, was the introduction of the humans in these Cobra guys. I'm assuming they're from Cobra, but because Starscream is sitting inside a volcano, and these guys just go down there to get him without any kind of protection or anything. So yeah, there's a little suspension of disbelief for sure, but the volcano is melting his legs, and they just grab Starscream and pull him up. So
they wore oven mitts.
Dead. Yeah, they're dead. I get it. Like, they shouldn't be alive. So where this gets taken, I'm not sure, but the fact that Starscream's still alive is probably pretty big for the future of the Energon universe. I did also like the thing that you've mentioned where you see Megatron's gun mode, and you can definitely tell it's just a tank with a handle on it. So maybe that's a kind of a wink to the third party companies to say, hey, look, we're gonna do a Studio Series 86 Megatron. Just put a handle out there. Like, look, this, we're gonna make it fit with this thing here. So anyway, I like what they've done with this. It's funny. So I don't know. To see a gun with tank treads is hilarious. But yeah, I like the issue. I thought it was good. Interested what part 2 is going to be. I'm always interested to see the other side of a story, and this is definitely one of those where the good guys seem like the bad guys, right? So yeah.
Yep. I wonder with Genvo or Genvo, I tried Googling that name. I didn't see any Transformers references for that. So I don't know where that name is coming from. But
dealer's choice.
It's just an original character now.
Yeah. But the character's coloring looked a lot like Metal Hawk. So that made me think of IDW, where, I mean, they were friends, but then Starscream betrayed him and killed him himself. So it's a slightly different here, but yeah, that's what it reminded me of. Also, in the one scene where you see like the Decepticons running and fighting, you've got Shockwave and Genvo, and then in the middle you've got a bot it's Blitzwing with a different color scheme. I think it's that. What's that other Overcharge? Was that the other character?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's the original coloring of that mold, the Diaclone mold.
Dr. Pants, you're muted. That's why we can't hear you.
Whoops. Yeah, yes, Diaclone colors, Overcharge, and that's getting a figure.
Yep,
yeah,
we did talk about that. Yep.
So product placement.
So that's product placement in a Transformers comic?
Specifically product.
I'm sure it's just a coincidence.
Listen, I get it, but it just seems really weird that we never see that character really pop up anywhere, but now there's a figure.
Are they going to announce a Genvo or Genvo at New York Comic Con?
Yeah, it'll be in the comics edition collection. And Charles will have to buy it.
Yep. It's in my contract. All right. Well, Dr. Pants, let's go to you. What did you think of this issue?
Okay. I'm going to be honest, and this is probably my least favorite issue of this series so far. It doesn't make it bad, but I didn't enjoy it as much as the previous issues. The artwork is fine. It's not the artwork we've been getting, and there's a couple of moments I'm not the biggest fan of, but the story's cool. I do kind of wish, and now that you've mentioned that whole thing with Jetfire knowing he's Starscream, that just takes me out of this whole Ulchtar thing, and I'm like, they just shouldn't have done it, because they kind of did it for the G1 deep cut, and also for that moment at the end where it's like, my name is Starscream, which that whole thing was fine. I'm way more interested to know what fills in the gap between that moment and the Starscream we have now, because you would expect after all that Starscream wouldn't be like a dick. He would just be he'd be vengeful and wanting to like avenge his friends and everything, but not be the Starscream we know. So I'm more interested in what comes next. But everything else, it was fine. The artwork does have its moments where it's really cool. I do kind of like the shot of Optimus Prime standing up like over Starscream. That page is kind of cool. And the shots
With
of Starscream,
angry eyes.
with the angry eyes. And the next page with Starscream melting. Like, it's cool. And I think the humans are drawn really well. But then that towards the end there, where you get that shot of Megatron coming up on Starscream, Megatron's walking through the flames. Megatron looks so out of proportion. And Starscream just has dots for eyes and a little line for a mouth. And it looks really dumb and cartoony. And I don't like it. But I mean, that's just me. Also, Megatron gun mode, that's just a tiny tank with a handle. I'm living for that. That is amazing, and I love it. Love it, love it, love it. It's not a bad issue. It has its problems, but it's still better than a lot of other Transformers comics we've gotten in the past. Like, this is better, by far better than the worst Transformers comics, and better than a lot of the good ones. It's still well written. The artwork's pretty good. Maybe this is just because I don't care about Starscream at all. I just could care less about that character.
We should have had Char on the show for this issue.
You should have. You really should have. But
yeah.
I'm sorry. I hate to be a downer. But again, it's a good issue. I love this series and I enjoyed the read. I kind of want to know more about Genvo and where that came from. We get the Ulchtar deep cut and then random new character Genvo. Like, where did that come from? And yeah, he looks a little like Metal Hawk. And there's a Cyberverse character he kind of looks like too. I think it's like Meteor Storm or something. Kind of reminds me of that a bit. I did think in the very first panel where he shows up, his face, he reminded me of something out of Rescue Bots, honestly. Like, it looked very cartoon and friend shaped. And it's like, oh, there's a very Rescue Bots kind of face going on. But no, the issue is fine. Artwork has its moments. It's just not the best. I kind of, I like the art we had in the series, and this was a change, and changes. I fear change. But again, if this is a two-parter, I'm really curious to see what the second part is. I want to see where we go from here, because maybe that'll make it complete, and I'll enjoy it more, and I'll appreciate Starscream's backstory a bit more. I'm actually kind of hoping also, because the Ulchtar name is also tied to Armada Starscream. For some reason, it apparently gets thrown around somewhere with him, that maybe this kind of ends up going a little bit the way of like Armada Starscream, and we do get kind of like this honorable warrior who has a fall, and maybe at some point he'll redeem himself. I don't know. Just wait and see.
I mean, it's a pretty kind of drastic contrast where you see here, he's like, oh, these tiny little creatures, you got to protect them, and they're not. And then in issue 1, he's like, crushing a human mercilessly.
That's kind of why I'm waiting on part 2 here, because I want to know what happened, because there has to be something insane that happened to cause that. Maybe he's got brain damage, and then maybe these guys will fix him, and he'll be better. I don't know.
No, I mean, at least I don't think character motivations come down to brain damage, unfortunately. So I think Starscream's just, he walked down a dark path and he went too far, and he's just stuck there.
He went way too far then. Oh, these bugs are cute. Human.
No, yeah, I mean that's the contrast here, because those first 6 issues of the Transformers comic, you see him so sadistic and gleefully sadistic towards particularly the humans, but basically everybody. Well, even his fellow Decepticons with kicking. I mean, that was the thing. He kicked Ravage, and he got on Soundwave's permanent shit list for that, and that's what ultimately led to his demise. So.
And wasn't it his decision also to repurpose Skywarp as basically like a regenerator of their forces? So yeah, I just.
But Soundwave did that too. Soundwave is not blameless there either.
I am a Soundwave apologist, but you are right. He did some bad stuff, but I mean, it's still it was part of Starscream's idea, wasn't it? He was like, "Yeah, let's do this." Yeah, I didn't know this was a 2-parter, so the fact that you say it's a part 2 or there's a second part coming, it makes me a little bit more excited. Because if it had just ended here, it's like, no, that's not enough. There needs to be more here as to what happens. So I'll wait and see.
Mm-hmm. All right. Also, I wanted to mention in that shot, the page with Optimus Prime, we do get Bumblebee. Bumblebee makes an appearance in this comic. So
you also get a silhouette of Grimlock.
Yeah.
Is that who that's supposed to be?
I mean, it could.
Other than the side canon, it's your stereotypical Grimlock.
That's true. Also, I don't know. Are those nipple lights?
I mean, I think his like War Within Cybertronian design kind of had headlight.
I was going with like a hoist or trailbreaker. I mean, that would have been the cannon would have been behind him, I guess, but I don't know. That's who I was kind of going with on that one.
I don't know. I mean, I hope it's Grimlock. I want some Grimlock in this.
All right, Jeremy, what were your thoughts?
I largely enjoyed the book. It wasn't what I was expecting. I knew this was going to be Starscream focused, but I don't know what I was really expecting, but it wasn't this. But it was enjoyable. I'm not going to pretend that I got the Ulchtar reference, because I didn't until you put it in the show notes. But I love that deep cut. I mean, when you have something like that you can pull from and give a known character a new name, kind of building out their backstory. I love it when they do that.
Gotta confess, Jeremy, I didn't get it either. I saw it online, like when people were reacting to the preview images.
Oh, really?
Somebody.
Oh, I knew this. So,
really?
Well, look at me.
Because you had that, nice interview with your friend, the late Denny O'Neil.
He didn't remember that. I did have that though.
I was Googling it muted while this was going on because I'm like, Ulchtar has to mean something. Like, I thought maybe it was like another language and it had like another meaning that would. No, it was just actually a Starscream reference. Okay.
It's just a made up word.
Just a made up word.
Like all words are. I just blew your mind.
It is too late for this crap, Jeremy.
Okay. Anyway, I did enjoy the story. I'm wondering if Genvo is going to come back. I would love if we got at the very least a like comic universe Genvo figure. I did catch the plot hole with the whole like Jetfire and the Ulchtar name. So, but it didn't really bug me all that much. The story was enjoyable, although I'm wondering, just what caused the war. I mean, are they saying that the Guardian robots started it because Starscream basically alerted them to their presence, or is this an unreliable narrator situation and he's just seeing the events of basically his friend being killed by the Autobots, and then the page of Optimus Prime and the Autobots, they're very angry looking. They're not your typical expressions that we get on the Autobots. So I'm kind of leaning towards the unreliable narrator. We're just seeing Starscream's perspective on the events that happen. But I don't know. I kind of like this like vagueness, and hopefully we get it cleared up as we go along.
Yeah, I would lean on that side too, Jeremy. I think start like the Ulchtar and his friends alerting a guardian robot, I think has nothing to do with the war in Cybertron. I think that was percolating in the background, because in the beginning Genvo was already joined up with the Decepticons, so there's already things going on. I think they were just the implication that these are essentially like teenagers that are not really involved in the global politics of Cybertron at this point, and so things are happening and they're not really focused on them. So
yeah, and Genvo just got caught up in the hype of this new movement. He got his tattoo and he's ready to go.
Yep.
Yeah. But the art of the Guardian robots, whether it's Omega Supreme or just a generic, it was really good. I really liked that. On the whole, I liked a lot of the art. The eye thing, I think we've seen from Jason Howard before. I don't know where, but I know we had talked about it before, and it's just his style. But it did seem, you have all of this like dramatic stuff, and then you have characters with just basically dots for eyes and like more anime looking faces. But I got some Transformers animated feels from some of the panels, like the way the characters were drawn at times, particularly closer to the beginning when they're more happy. But I don't know. The art I thought was, it ranged from pretty good to really good. On like the Autobot page was really good. The Megatron introduction with like the full page Megatron was really good. Let's see, or was the humans were okay. But yeah, I think this was a fun story, and I'm looking forward to seeing the part 2, like Dr. Pants said. And with the tank gun thing, I could see someone making a stand that you could put a tank Megatron into to display it, and it appears to be a gun. I like those. That would be fun. Just kind of a hack job to get it to display like that.
What if they just package the stand in with the Studio Series 86 Megatron? What if they're actually going to do that?
What if the stand is just basically putting the tank around the gun?
Yeah. Because you're not selling a gun. It's a stand. It's a stand.
I got a lot of upside down submarines to sell you.
I've already bought all those upside down submarines. Or no, they're just submarines that are upside down guns.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Nonetheless, I have a lot of those already. None of them are water friendly. I feel like I was lied to.
Well, they're when they're upside down, they're guns. So they're not guns, they're upside down submarines.
Oh God.
All right. Well, that's our review of Transformers number 13, and let us know what you thought of the issue. I'm still a little bit miffed that the issue 12 ended with kind of a cliffhanger for some of for that story arc, and we're not getting back to it until issue 15. So
And when you're me and you're not that big of a Starscream fan, it's just a slap in the face that we're getting this instead of more of the story.
Unfortunately, you're in the vast minority.
I know I am. Listen.
But that's a meta commentary that doesn't really reflect on the issue itself. So
No.
Maybe through this whole thing, we'll see like Bumblebee just completely annoying Starscream, and that kind of gives some context to why he was just like blown away.
God. No, I get that. I get that motivation. I don't need mine.
All right. Well, we've still got a little bit to talk about, so let's move on to some convention news.
All right. First up, we have some New York Comic Con news. The Skybound panels have been announced. Friday, October 18th, there is a Funko Fusion NYCC panel that is going to have Robert Kirkman from the Energon Universe. And he's going to drop in on the recently released Funko Fusion video game panel. And not sure if this is going to be in his capacity with Walking Dead or Invincible or Void Rivals or whatever, but he's going to be there. There's an Energon Universe signing at Midtown Comics with Joshua Williamson, Tom Riley, and Jorge Corona. This is 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Midtown Comics. So they're going to be signing. They have limited quantities of Midtown Comics exclusive variant of the G.I. Joe #1 NYCC Ash Can. And that's going to be available for purchase. October 19th, Transformers and G.I. Joe, What's Next for the Energon Universe? 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. at Javits Center Room 406.1. And this is going to be Robert Kirkman, Jorge Corona, Joshua Williamson, Tom Riley, and Sean Makowitz. And it's going to be huge surprises, apparently. Not seeing a Daniel Warren Johnson there. I'm not sure if he's just not going to be at NYCC or if they're going to be talking about what happens after he leaves the book. So
sounds like they're pretty focused on G.I. Joe this year since that's coming out next month.
Yeah, but I mean, they know what puts money in their wallets. And that's not G.I. Joe. They're also going to have at the this is the Transformers #1 40th anniversary edition. Bill Sinkinovich, or I cannot never pronounce his last name.
I think you're right.
Okay, a trade dress version of his original cover for Transformers #1, the one with DeForest Kelly on it. And this is a limited edition to 500, and it's a eBay Live Big Clutch NYCC variant. And then there are a couple G.I. Joes, the Dreadnoughts, or the Ash Can with the Dreadnoughts logo, and then an extensive Enterprises logo one. So that is all of the NYCC news. October 18th and 19th, so coming up in a week, about a week. And then we have TF Nation, the TFN Mini-Con Reading, November 23rd. They've announced that Ed Peary is going to be there. He has done art on Transformers comics for IDW, the definitive G1 collection by Hachette, and he's also working on the IDW Godzilla comics. And then joining him is going to be Chris Carter, who did colors throughout the early part of the IDW Transformers run. Devastation, some spotlights, All Hail Megatron, and then some of the movie comics as well. And we're going to wrap up with some TFCon Baltimore news. Someone that Dr. Pants just met, Michael Bell, he's going to be there. It's November 1st through 3rd. So he will be there, voice of G1 Sideswipe, Prowl, Swoop, and Bombshell, as well as characters in many other series. Doug Parker is going to be there. He was Pterosaur in Beast Wars, and he was Tidal Wave in Armada. Michael Charles Hill, who was a writer on NG1, he wrote things like The Gambler, Starscream's Brigade, Killing Jar, Ghost of the Machine, Burden Hardest to Bear, and The Return of Optimus Prime Part 2. And then we have some sad news. They announced this weekend that Peter Cullen is not going to be able to travel to TFCon Baltimore. If you bought any of the tickets to see his panel or his signing or anything, you should have already been reimbursed or refunded the money. They do have a Frank Walker VIP ticket available for Saturday, and the Frank Welker Q&A panel is now scheduled for the end of the day on Saturday. So hopefully Peter Cullen is doing okay health-wise, and I mean, everyone just assumes that's why he can't travel, but hopefully everything gets better for him, and we'll be able to see him at another show. So that is all of our convention news.
Okay, and we will finish up the show with some feedback. All right, we did our Monster Transformers 1 spoiler review last week, and we got some monster feedback. So let's start off with a voicemail sent in
Hey, transmissions from.
by Brent from Chicago.
This is Brent from Chicago again. I listened to your most recent episode, your in-depth review of Transformers 1, and it inspired me to give my feedback on what I thought of the film. You know, I actually found myself agreeing with Dr. Pants. Let me explain why. I agree that the film was good, but really good? Nah, I can't go there either. I don't think it's really good. I just think the movie was good. So I'm gonna go over the nitpicks I had with the film first, and then I'll go into my positives. And of course, this is all my opinion. So, number one, the two male lead voice actors, I did not think they were good. I thought Chris Hemsworth did a mediocre job. You know, I just don't think he's very good as a voice actor. I don't think he has good inflection. He's kind of flat. When I think of Chris Hemsworth, the first thing that comes to my mind is not great voice actor. I think Brian Tyree Henry, I think he was even worse as D16 Megatron. I really thought he did a poor job, and it was very distracting for me when your two male lead voice actors are not good. So that really bothered me throughout the film. Number two, I thought Bumblebee was very annoying. Bumblebee is already overexposed in media as it is, but boy, he would not shut up. Just like many characters in this film, nobody could stop talking, and Bumblebee was just the worst. It was very irritating and distracting for me. It's like Bumblebee either has to be completely silent, speaking in radio code, or he has to be an annoying, hyper-verbose character. Why can't they strike a balance? Another negative for me was Alita 1. I found her characterization to be kind of bitchy. Excuse my language. I don't know. She was just not likable and kind of annoying too. That's just my opinion. Another thing was I felt like the jokes fell flat. Nobody in our theater laughed. I don't know if that influenced me, but yeah, I didn't think it was very funny. But again, maybe it's just aimed at the kids. But I didn't hear kids laughing either. The jokes just fell flat repeatedly. Another complaint I had is that Megatron's heel turn, or D16's heel turn, that was more abrupt and unbelievable than Anakin Skywalker's. It's almost like they skipped over one or two films to get D16 to this point. The characterization didn't make any sense. I just didn't buy his heel turn into becoming the big baddie. And this last point, it's not exclusive to Transformers 1. I think it's just it's Hasbro and Takara and Paramount in general. You've heard me say this many times before. I'm going to just repeat it again. They keep using the same characters over and over. The same 7 boring guys. Optimus, Bumblebee, Soundwave, Starscream, Megatron, etc., Shockwave. We're trying to push the franchise forward, to take it to the next level, to introduce it to new fans, but they keep handcuffing themselves to the same characters over and over. You have over 1,000 Transformer characters to choose from, and they keep using the same 7. I mean, imagine if every Marvel comic just featured Captain America, Wolverine, the Hulk, Spider-Man, Thor and Iron Man. You know, you have all these characters to choose from, and they keep using the same guys over and over. It's like, do something different. They did this with Earthspark. They did this. They're doing it right now with the Skybound comic. Yes, they featured RC, thank God. But I think RC kind of gets a pass because she's female. If she wasn't female or a female Autobot, she would be sitting on the shelf with Hot Rod, Cup, Blaster, Cyclonus, Galvatron, Fortress Maximus, Darksaber, Six Shot, etc., etc., etc. There's so many cool characters, but we keep getting the same guys over and over. You're making a movie and you handcuff yourself to the two most boring characters, in my opinion, Optimus and Megatron. I was like, Jesus, can we do something different? In a perfect world, there would be a moratorium on Hasbro and Takara and Paramount, whoever, using any season 1 and season 2 characters. Just like, stop. Try to use somebody else. Use season 3 guys, season 4 guys. Use the Master Force guys, the Victory guys, Headmaster guys, etc., etc. Just use someone different. Write a new story. Okay, I'm done ranting. I'm sorry for that. I'll get back on track. So I'll get into the positives. I think it was well made. The visuals were beautiful. The camera work was great. The action was great. It's debatable whether the animation is better in the 86 movie versus this one. I mean, it's completely different. It's apples and oranges. It's kind of up to your preference. There are people that like hand-drawn 2D animation, and there are people that like the newer computer animated artwork. So I'm not going to say one is better than the other. But, and that's another thing I agree with Dr. Pants on. The 86 movie is better than this one. As good as it is, the 86 movie is better. I cared about the characters more. I agree with them, and the music is objectively better. And some other positives: no humans. That's awesome. And nothing about Earth. That's also good. And the movie was not too long. And it's better than any of the Michael Bay directed movies, although is that saying much? Personally, I liked Rise of the Beast better than this movie. If for no other reason, they at least showed other characters like Optimus Primal, Cheetor, and the Maximals. They're showing someone different. And they included RC, one of my favorite characters of all time. So yeah, getting back to the overall point, I would give Transformers 1 a 7 out of 10 or a 3.5 stars out of 5. It's a good movie. It's not great. It is obviously better than any of the Michael Bay films. And I do hope it leads to other sequels, but only if they do something different and they start featuring other characters. I don't want the same thing over and over. But again, this is all just my opinion.
All right. I mean, thanks for sending in your opinion. I kind of disagree a lot with a lot of it. So, but we had our say last week, so that's fine. Definitely with the voice acting, I couldn't disagree more about Brian Tyree Henry. I thought he was the breakout of the movie. So,
I think a lot of people have a problem with him because he doesn't sound like a typical Megatron.
Yeah,
I think that's
but I think. Go ahead.
I was gonna say because I've seen a lot of people online complaining the same thing, that they don't like his take on it. Now other people really love it, but then I think it's a very love it or hate it. And I think the people who don't like it, they're just, it's not my Megatron. It doesn't sound like Megatron. Blah. So.
And that's fine. I mean, what I appreciated was the transformation of his character from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie. I thought that was really well done. But I do agree with the larger point of, you can't just have anyone be a voice actor. I mean, unfortunately, we can't turn back the clock on this. For big budget animated movies, they will always get like high profile actors to be voices. Now they will not go back to just getting real, quote unquote, real experienced voice actors to do voice roles in movies anymore. That's just not happening anymore, unfortunately. But But I would agree with that. I would say, I mean, even Transformers, the 86 movie did this. They did stunt casting for Transformers, the 86 movie. And since the 90s, this is not changing. I mean, I think the revolution was Robin Williams in Aladdin. And since he did such a great job with his improv and like they basically animated around his voice acting in Aladdin, they thought basically, well, you need celebrities to do voice acting now. Obviously, if you want to do good, you got to do celebrity voice acting, not recognizing that Robin Williams was a singular talent who was really good at doing improv and doing funny voices. And that was what made his performance so spectacular, not the fact that he was just a big name comedian or actor. So
yeah.
That's not changing. Unfortunately, we don't have any control over that. But I will say that, and I also agree with changing up the characters, with having different characters, focusing on different characters in Transformers media. Although for this one, I mean, they said it at the beginning, this is an origin story, so you can't really deviate for Optimus Prime and Megatron are kind of the heart of the origin story of the Transformers war, at least. And that relationship is supposed to be central to the start of the war, so you can't really get away from those characters in an origin story. So you can disagree and say they shouldn't have done an origin story, which, I mean, you can also you can say that, but I think this was kind of, if you're doing the first kind of animated movie you haven't done in a while, like you haven't done it since the 80s, yeah, you're going to focus on your core characters. But I also will push back and say Earthspark brought in a bunch of new characters that were the focus of the story. Optimus, Megatron, Bumblebee, they were kind of background characters. The focus was the Terrans. So those are all completely new characters.
I think he said Earthrise.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
I
think he said Earthrise. I did too
Oh.
for a second, but then I was like, no, that's Earthrise, he said, which,
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and whatever. Sorry.
Also, I mean, Hollywood doesn't really like to take a lot of risks, so you're going to go with your known cast. I mean, when they do take risks, I mean, look at Joker, the new like Joker 2, whatever. It just they take risks by making the characters not be the characters.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, the thing with Joker though, the sequel was not really a risk because the first one did so well. So they figured, we'll continue this. So it's not a risk, but then it turned out not so great. Which, I mean, I thought this would not be a risk either with taking Transformers back to animated, but unfortunately this Transformers animated movie is following in the footsteps of the 86 movie and being a commercial failure, unfortunately.
I mean, I still think it was the marketing. I think the marketing was it did the movie in. So
yeah, it's absolutely terrible. I do want to make one more comment on the thing he said. He talked about Alita 1 being bitchy in the movie. He says he referenced the Skybound comics. Are you not reading Skybound? Because Alita 1 is like 1,000 times worse in that book than she was in the movie. So like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, RC it might be who he's kind of thinking of, because like RC's been in the Skybound comics a lot more than Alita 1.
Yeah, but
her characterization is so much better. But yeah, I agree. Alita 1 in the comics is so much worse.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks, Brent, for sending in your feedback. And I mean, of course, we disagree on a lot of points, but we agree on other things. So, that's how it is with everyone. All right. We have a comment that this came in just as we were recording the toy show. So it was very, you got in just under the wire that we could get it on the show. And he actually left the comment on our website, which I don't think anyone's done that in like years. So thank you to Insane Galvatron for writing in. So he says, I went to see the movie a second time this weekend, and I took my 73-year-old boomer dad. As a kid, I only saw my dad on weekends and watched Transformers during the week. He never saw the cartoon because I never watched it in front of him. He knew I liked them, but his only exposure to the media has been the live action movies. I tried to tell him that wasn't a representative of what I liked about the franchise. He knew nothing about the cartoons or comics. He really liked it. Better than the previous movies. The joke he laughed at the hardest? Badassatron. You guys said it went on too long. He laughed every single time. Even at the end when B had knife hands and said it again. It was his favorite joke. He kept saying it on the way to the truck and on all the way home. Oh, and Charles, we have a Versailles in Kentucky as well. We also pronounce it Versailles. It's the English pronunciation. Versailles is the French pronunciation. Think of it like the name Jesus, spelled the exact same way the Spanish pronunciation is Jesus. Different language, different pronunciation rules. Versailles is correct in English. Okay.
Is this like how in the UK they pronounce things like jalapeno, jalapeno?
Yeah, I would say, yeah. I take that point, but we don't have anything. We don't have Versailles in it. Like Versailles is a place. It's a specific place in France.
Very famous place.
Yeah.
It's a French origin word.
Yeah.
Like it comes from France, so it should be pronounced the French way.
And all the places here in the States that are named they're named for that specific place. So okay, I mean, we take other words from French as well, like hors d'oeuvres. We don't call them hors d'oeuvres, do we? We call them hors d'oeuvres, right?
That's how you say that word. I've been saying it wrong this whole time.
But yeah, I mean, I still think Versailles is silly. I'm sorry. I've been living in Pittsburgh for 25 years. I still think it's silly. I call it that now, but yeah, it's North Versailles here. That's fine, but it's still silly. All right, thank you, Insane Galvatron, for writing in. I'm glad your dad enjoyed the movie. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Yeah, hope. Yeah, I'm crossing my fingers that it does well enough to get us a sequel. We'll see. All right, from Discord, we had Ichabod Drift left several lengthy comments on Discord. So let's get into them. Well, I've got a ton of alt mode feedback. If you guys want to get more feels from the community on TF1, I'm going to start by backing up Dr. Pants here a bit. Yes, 2D animation will always be superior to CG. I will defend CG a bit here and say CG animators are still technically hand drawing, but for me, the amount of heart apparent in quality 2D animation will always outshine the heart put into CG for me, whether that's fair or not. But in regards to the box office at the moment, I'll just give the reasons I personally still have zero interest in watching TF1 until perhaps it's available on a streaming service I'm already paying for. I'll get the big one out of the way, and if Dr. Pants thinks he painted a target on his back, you guys can at me in the Discord on this one. I don't think Transformers has ever lent itself well to movie format, even the 86 movie. I didn't get to see the 86 movie until VHS in the mid-90s, and while it's fine, I'm not enamored by nostalgia with it. Plus, by then, I was already a character-driven media consumer as a preteen from consuming TF media like Beast Wars. With the exception of Bumblebee, the 86 movie, and the rest of the Bayverse all have massive save-the-world stakes, which means that conflict must be resolved before any character conflicts truly can have the proper time devoted to resolving them. By the sounds of your takes, it seems like they did an all right job of actually dealing with character conflict in TF1, but imagine how much better it could have been if they weren't having to focus on overthrowing the entire societal problems of Cybertron. Mike's comment on the pacing sort of backs this up to me. At least for me, comics and TV shows will always be the premier storytelling and character mediums for Transformers because you get to keep developing your characters while potentially increasing the stakes of the overall story. I could go on more petty reasons as to why I'm not interested. I already have my preferred Optimus Megatron origin in IDW. See the above comic comments. Not really a fan of the character designs in general. They're almost too human to me, and despite your assurances otherwise in general, I still have huge concerns with the quality of voice acting given Cooley's direction of just do your own voice to key, according to an interview from the beginning of the year. But really, it comes down to my take of the IP not lending itself well to what I want in film, and the fact that I'm really just jaded and bored with the film industry in general over the last 10 plus years. But I always appreciate the content from you all, and I honestly probably enjoyed the entire discussion from the A and B plus teams more than whenever I get around to seeing the actual movie. Keep up the great work. Happy to continue my support of Transmissions. Well, thank you for that support, Ichabod Drift. Yeah, I mean, I guess we're going to have to agree to disagree here as well. I mean, I think Transformers can work in movie form. I think that it has worked in the 86 movie, this movie, TF1, and Bumblebee movie, and Rise of the Beast. I think those all work. I even think the original Bay movie, Transformers, the first Transformers 2007 movie, worked as an introduction to the franchise, to the wider world. You know, but it's I think that comes down to personal preference. I can see how, you know, you'd like to have a more long form drawn out story, either in serialized TV media or comics. Those definitely have advantages to getting to tell longer stories with longer character arcs. But I don't think Transformers 1 did a disservice to the character arcs in the story at the, you know, like they didn't focus on the save the world aspect at the expense of the character arcs. The save the world aspect was actually really, I think, minor compared to the character arcs and the character growth of Optimus and Megatron in this movie.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Charles, because like the story is Optimus and Megatron. The whole like save Cybertronian society is like secondary.
Yeah.
It's nothing but a vehicle to get us where we're actually trying to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think I would argue that this was the most character driven Transformers movie, and I would include the 86 movie in that. I think this was very focused on the characters and the story and their growth and change throughout the movie. And that was not like, did not play second fiddle to the overarching save the world plot. So but like I said, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I just want to say, like, we did not ask Dr. Pants to come on just because of all this feedback. This just happened to be his week.
But it happened to be my week where I get to review a Starscream book and get all this feedback and get the validation I deserve from this feedback. I mean, man, I'm feeling good right now.
People are entitled to be wrong about their opinion.
And I love both 2D and 3D animation. I think 2D animation is great. I would love to have more 2D animation. I wish that we could get more theatrical 2D animation releases that are not anime.
If we had a full length thing, like from Studio Trigger, like that short, that little 5-minute thing that they did, that would be amazing.
But that's anime, and Charles said not anime.
I mean, I'm not saying not, and I'm just saying not anime because we actually do get anime feature movies. I'm just saying that like non-Japanese 2D animation productions are non-existent in feature films these days.
I know.
Which is unfortunate. So and Japanese people, don't take this as a cue to stop. Please keep going.
Please. Oh my God.
Stop. So yeah, you're the only ones keeping the 2D animation fires going. So please keep that going. I think 2D animation is still viable in television or streaming, at this point. So we do get a lot of streaming shows that are 2D animation, which I think that's good that medium allows for that. I just wish we would get 2D feature films. I do think what happens with CG animation, and I think, and this is evident with the 90s. I mean, Daryl's particular opinion with Beast Wars and the animation of the 90s, CG animation can age poorly, and that unfortunately happens, and we've seen that with animation from the 90s, how the reboots and the Beast Wars do not hold up to today's modern visual standards. But that's a risk for CG animation. I think it's somewhat less these days. I think CG animation has kind of crossed that bar where the base level of quality you can get these days is probably still going to hold up, and I think that's been true for a while now. But 2D animation is well done. 2D animation is pretty timeless, which at least I don't know if CG animation is still that would be considered timeless like that.
I mean, I know we all toot the horn of the '86 movie, but like not all of it. It has its hiccups, but a lot of that animation is beautiful in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that was '86, and
yeah,
you know, Beast Wars 10 years later looks kind of like garbage. Amazing show.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
visuals did not age well.
With the hand-drawn art, I mean, assuming it's not drawn on a computer, you can rescan that at different resolutions, and it looks amazing however you do it. And, you know, they would just have to completely re-render. I mean, they're doing it with Reboot. They found the original files with Reboot, and there is a project, like they're redoing it in HD, and it looks amazing.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, look that up on YouTube.
Oh, man.
Like they have, I think, the first episode done in 1080, and I mean, it's 4:3, but it's still 1080, and it looks really good. So possible, takes a lot of work, and you have to have the original files, and like they found the original tapes and everything.
Yeah, I remember they did something similar with Star Trek: The Next Generation. Like when they put that on DVD, they had to basically re-render all the computer animated effects to make it like they were able to up-res everything because they still had the original models and re-rendered everything.
But DS9 looks so much better because it was done on film rather than the video tape format that Next Gen used.
Interesting. All right. Well, thanks everyone for writing in and continuing the discussion with Transformers 1. And if you have comments about Transformers number 13, we just reviewed this week, send them in. And we will continue to talk about all things Transformers. So that takes us to the end of this episode of Transmissions Alt Mode. As always, we give a shout out to our Masterpiece Donatrons. These are the folks who continue to support the podcast at our highest level on Patreon. So that's why they get a mention in every episode. So thank you once again to John Forks Levengood, Demon Tech 82, and Steve C. And thank you to Dr. Pants for joining us this week, despite all your wrong opinions. Just kidding.
No, I know. I was validated this episode.
But yeah, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you and Nerdstradamus online?
So you can find me, Dr. Pants 1412 on a lot of different social media on TikTok and Twitter. But I am a part of the larger nerd machine of Nerdstradamus, which you can find the link right below my name if you're watching the video, or it's in the show notes if you're listening to this via audio. Nerdstradamus is mostly a YouTube channel. We are everywhere, but most of our content is video based. We do music videos, video game discussions, video game playthroughs, things like that. So if you haven't checked us out, please do so. Please give us a subscribe. I promise we have new videos coming out sometime soon. It's been a rough year. But there's new stuff coming. I promise. And it's good. I think.
All right. And that'll do it for this episode. Thanks everyone for watching and listening. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Later.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Transmissions. If you'd like to join the conversation, travel to our Discord channel at transmissionspodcast.com/Discord. Want some cool transmission swag? Feast your eyes on our transmissions gear at transmissionspodcast.com/shop. If you'd like to support our podcast, go to transmissionspodcast.com/support or tell your friends about our show. We'll see you next time.